They laughed the first day she walked onto the training field. Not a polite chuckle, not a quiet grin. They laughed loud, cruel, and unashamed. Because in their eyes, she didn't belong. Her uniform hung loose on her small frame. Her boots looked almost too heavy for her thin legs, and when she struggled to hoist the rucksack onto her shoulders, a few of the recruits shook their heads. "Another one who's going to quit before the first week," one of them muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. But she didn't respond. She just tightened the straps, her jaw locked, eyes focused on something they couldn't see. Because what they didn't know was that scars tell stories, and beneath the sleeve of her fatigues, burned faintly into the skin near her shoulder, was a mark very few in the world would recognize. The black viper. But that revelation would come later, when it mattered most. Training was brutal. The sun baked the field like a furnace, and sweat poured like rain from every forehead. Recruits were dropping like flies, but through it all, the laughter didn't stop. Not completely. Every time she faltered, every time her arms trembled under the weight of the push-ups, they smirked. When her voice cracked during cadence drills, someone at the back whispered, "Weak link." And maybe she heard it. Maybe she didn't, but she never turned, never spoke. She just kept moving, slow, steady, deliberate. The day it all shifted started during the obstacle course. Mud pits, barbed wire, walls taller than two grown men. She approached the 10-foot wall, and the laughter was already waiting for her on the other side. "Come on, princess," one recruit shouted. "Want us to build you a ladder?" Another joked. They waited for her to fail, but she didn't. She didn't just climb. She scaled that wall like a shadow, hands gripping, feet driving, no wasted movement. And when she landed, it wasn't with a stumble. It was with the grace of someone who had done this too many times to count. For a moment, the laughter stopped, but only for a moment. Later that day, during weapons drills, the colonel appeared. A man carved from stone, eyes like steel, someone whose silence was heavier than any shout. He walked the line, inspecting recruits, correcting grips, adjusting stances. Then he reached her. She stood at attention, rifle in hand, mud streaked across her cheek. The colonel's gaze lingered, not on her face, but on her arm. She froze when his eyes narrowed, his voice low. "Roll up your sleeve, soldier." The air grew heavy. Recruits stopped moving. Even the drill sergeant looked confused. Slowly, she pushed up her sleeve, revealing the faded mark etched into her skin. A black serpent, coiled and poised to strike. The emblem no ordinary soldier would ever carry. For a second, the colonel's eyes softened. Then he leaned in, close enough that only she could hear, and whispered, "That's a black viper mark." The words hit like a thunderclap. The room didn't hear them, but they felt the shift. Every man who laughed that morning saw the colonel step back, heels clicking, and raise his voice for all to hear. "Recruits, you're standing next to someone who's done more for this country than you can imagine. Someone who earned that mark in places most of you can't even spell." Silence, not a whisper, not a breath. The same soldiers who mocked her now stood frozen, jaws tight, eyes wide, and she? She didn't smile, didn't smirk. She just pulled her sleeve down, lifted her rifle, and waited for the next order. Because real strength doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It whispers through scars, through discipline, through resilience that never needs validation. Her story spread through the camp like wildfire, but she never cared for glory. She had seen too much, lost too much. The black vipers were ghosts, soldiers who vanished from records, who carried missions to the edge of the impossible and returned in silence. No medals, no fanfare, only marks carved into skin as proof of survival. And she carried hers not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Strength is quiet until it's called to speak. So the next time someone doubts you, mocks you, laughs at your dreams, remember this: the loudest voices often know the least, and the ones who rise, they do it without applause. They do it when no one believes. They do it because strength isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right every single day.